Hi folks, welcome back to the channel and a happy new year to you. Going to try and avoid the January blues a little bit by kicking off with this nice little summer flamethrower type pattern. So it's a bit of a customization job, thrown together a few things that I saw online, hope you like it. I definitely think it'll get a few fish given the colour code, and let's get stuck right into it. So kicking off proceedings folks, size 10 double Patriot in the vise, and just starting off with some orange UTC 80. Just get a couple of wraps down, then come in with a hot orange UTC wire. This is going to form the tag and the first part of the rib on the body for this fly. Just running this down to the points of the hook, and then we're going to come in with 4 turns of the wire. As always folks, on the last turn, up and in between the 2 hooks underneath, making sure this is caught in nice and tight and flush, and coming up a little bit, getting a few wraps in, and then folding it back and catching it all in nice and secure, nice and flat, and giving yourself a nice platform to start the fly. Okay, up first folks, we're going to come in with an orange floss. This is the uni floss. Just catching this on the side, couple of wraps, making sure again it's nice and flush up against that tag at the back. You don't want any spaces. Obviously using the orange thread will help you out a bit here, but try and keep it neat. And bringing this up to about halfway up the body or so, and then cutting away that excess when you're ready to do so. And from there folks, you can bring your floss up. Again, as I said, keep it nice and tight, overlapping and making sure you've got full coverage of that back half of the fly as you bring this up. And when you're happy with what you've got, you can catch this in with a couple of turns, front and back, just locking this into place and chop away your excess. And from there you can bring up your rib, probably looking at 3 to 4 turns depending how close you have these together. Once you're happy with this, catch it in, couple of turns, and you can bend and break away or chop this away. I'm just locking in a bit more of this for extra security, and I'm going to bend and break away. Okay folks, from there I'm going to come in with the first of our hackles, which is an hot orange Chinese cock hackle. Just catching this on the side by the tip. It's not a massive hackle, but certainly enough size, and then I'm just going to chop this away, leaving a little bit coming forward so I can lock this in, but just tidying this up. And then again, totally down to yourself, personal preference. You want a couple of turns so you can actually see the hackle, and also so that it'll prop up the bucktail for the flamethrower. So as always, stroke back the fibres down each side with the scissors, fold this back, and then really decide for yourself how many turns that you need to make the fly look how you want it to look. So that was 3 turns folks. Catching this in, creating a bit of a space, trying to catch too many fibres on the way through, and then just folding this back out the way, or chop it away like I'm doing here depending on the fibre you're using. Tidy this up and then just catching it in. Okay folks, time to add the flamethrower. So this is predominantly a mix of hot orange and chartreuse, 50-50 roughly, maybe a little bit more of the orange. Pick your length. I'm certainly going over the back of the hook, maybe by about a hook length, maybe just less. Anyway, catching this in on the top, make sure it's nicely positioned, and then also with this I'm going to catch in 1 strand of pearl crystal flash, which I'm going to fold back to create 2, so just catch this in at the same time, couple of turns, locking this into place, and then once you're happy with what you've got, you can chop away your excess, tidy up the front of the bucktail, and come forward to catch everything in. Okay, so once you've done that, next piece is the next rib. So this is a hot yellow that I'm using here from UTC. So just catching this in from the front and winding this back to where it meets the bucktail and effectively that first hackle, so that catch-in point. Bringing this in nice and flush all the way back up against it. And from there we can then come in with our Chartreuse Glister dubbing. So this is the front part of the body. Keep this quite light, folks, don't go over the top on this, you want this quite thin. This glister dubbing's got a habit of becoming quite bulky if you let it, so don't use too much, you can always add more and keep twisting this as you bring it on. And once you're happy with that front part of the body, bring up your wire ribbing. So looking at, again, 2 to 3 turns depending on how close you want them together, and this will lock down and firm up this front body section. As always, catch it in when you're happy with it, turns front and back, and bend away if possible. Okay, now it's time for the first of 2 hackles going on at the front of the fly. So this is a chartreuse, again Chinese cock, catch it in by the tip, again couple of wraps, and then going to fold this back and catch it in for extra security. Again, just repeating the process, make sure you're happy with the hackle length and density of the fibre count. Cut away the front of the tip, you don't need that anymore, and then get some wraps in with the hackle, folding it back and having them nice and in front of each other as you bring it round. So that was 2.5 tons, folks. As you can see, nicely stacked in front of each other. It's all flowing backwards in the right direction. Just creating a space here, catch it in with a couple of turns, and then folding the whole thing back just to lock it in. Once you've done that and it's nicely locked in, you can chop away your excess piece that you don't need anymore. Okay, it's certainly coming together, folks. Coming in with some medium-sized jungle cock at this point. I'm using chartreuse because I've got it and it suits the fly. The natural will work absolutely fine. So just catching these on, coming up quite high into the hackle. You want these coming up quite high, and just catch them on, make sure they're even and you're happy with them. Once you've caught these in, you can either just chop away these excess pieces or fold them back and cut them away for extra security. Very much down to yourself. Okay, good stuff, folks. The last thing we're adding in is a blue Chinese cock hackle. Again, just repeating the process from before, catching this on by the tip, folding it back out the way, extra security, and then coming in with a number of turns depending on what you want. I wouldn't go too heavy here. A turn, turn and a half, 2 turns at most, but you certainly don't want it to overshadow the front of the fly. You want that chartreuse to be visible through the blue. And as always, when you're happy with what you've got, create a space and catch this in. If possible, look to fold back this front hackle and get some wraps in for extra security. Chop away your excess at this point, folks, and then you can come in and whip finish off with this thread. We're actually going to give this fly a black head, so we no longer need the orange at this point. Okay, grab yourself some black 8/0 or 6/0, totally down to yourself, and just form a nice head on the front of this fly, covering all the orange and giving it a nice shape. And once you're done with that, you can whip finish and that's your fly done. a couple of coats of varnish on the head, and hopefully this will get you a few fish, or at least a pool or two in the late spring summer months for Atlantic salmon. And there you have it, folks. Nice little fly to tie moving into the new year, ahead of the new season. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the bell, subscribe, all that sort of good stuff. Be great to hear from you. Got certainly more videos coming up this year. And until next time, cheers.